Hi everyone, Paul Bertorelli reporting for AVweb and Aviation Consumer. You know, at first glance the airplane behind me might look like just another high-wing composite LSA, but it's not. It's a fully Part 23 certified aircraft. It's the Tecnam P2010. Now I've come here to Tecnam's North American headquarters in Sebring, Florida to take a flight in it, but first let's talk to Shannon Yeager about what Tecnam has in mind for this airplane.
You can tell by the name, it's the P2010. So that's the year that Luigi Pascali put that onto paper as a design, and that the actual main design work was completed. So the actual target was looking at the decline of other options, if you will, and no real usage of new technologies to get those performance numbers. So utilizing that 180 horsepower engine, we're able to still give you a real cruising performer well above what a 172 can do, but still that 172 operating numbers by combining the metal wings with the carbon fiber fuselage, which give you kind of the best of both worlds. The 2010 fits in a couple of nice little spots. One, it fits in the owner-operator market between the kind of the 172 and the 182. This can definitely be a good aircraft to learn on, as well as to then start beginning your traveling experiences. You can get that 140 knots. You can take 4 200-pound people and their golf bags in 2.5 hours of fuel. Coupling that to the ease of landing characteristics, it's very sure-footed on the ground, has a real nice taxi and takeoff and landing roll. So again, it's going to be very comfortable with an automotive experience to take your family out for those first times that you're going out there. So definitely the traveling market, as well as the top end of the training market. We'll also see these, as we do in Europe, in the hardcore training space as well. Engine itself is a Lycoming IO360 M1A, so that is allowed to use the 91 unleaded, no ethanol fuel as part of it. It's not an STC, it's how the aircraft comes, how the engine comes from Lycoming. So all the standard operation, as well as the maintenance things that you've done on a Lycoming IO360 are going to be the same in this aircraft. Avionics wise, we're offering in the US right now only the G1000 suite flight deck. Our backup instrument is the Mid-Continent SAM, so there's actually nothing in the backup instrumentation that's round. And then we also have the option for the autopilot of a GFC 700 autopilot. The propeller options are either a fixed cruise, a fixed climb, or a constant speed propeller. The one we're going to fly today has a cruise propeller on it. Fuel capacity is 62 gallons US, so if you know you're operating your IO360 in kind of a normal range, you're about 9 gallons an hour. So this really becomes kind of a 5.5 to 6 hour airplane. So very infrequently we're probably going to fill the tanks all the way to the top, but you can. So operating range can vary between 750 and 1,000 nautical miles if you really wanted to go that far. Typical cruise speeds, I like to cruise at about 132 knots for most fuel efficiency. The aircraft definitely can do 140 in cruise in normal extended range or extended cruise, but if I want the range out of it, I'm going about 132 because that gives me my best balance of fuel efficiency and that's a real practical number to use for flying. Well, the starting price is $345,000. The autopilot's another $30,000. So that's typically what people are getting. They're getting that, and the constant speed prop is 8. So once you add it all up, you're just under $400,000 is really where it kind of sells at if you have it fully equipped.
Shannon, we've been maneuvering out here for a few minutes to get the feel of the airplane. Before takeoff, you had alerted me that this would have a heavy feel to it, and it does. It takes off kind of flat. The acceleration is not slow, but it's not brisk either. In climb, we were seeing around 500 to 600 feet at about 75 to 80 knots. Let's talk a little bit about cruise now. We've set up a typical cruise here. Tell me how you set it up and what we'd expect to see.
Oh, right now we're down a little lower. We're about 2,500 feet. So fuel flows, we're getting about 50 to 55 liters per hour. At about 5,500, those things come down to about 42 to 45 liters per hour. Right now, I've got us at about 120 knots. This is kind of another place you could cruise at. If we get up to about 55, we'll end up cruising this at about 132 with the same fuel flow, which is kind of where I sit. And I do run this thing about 50 degrees rich of peak on the EGTs. That puts our CHTs at about 450 to 465. It's about where they tend to sit.
Yeah, no, right now
it's about 464.
The hottest is 464, and the coolest is 429, 400 actually. So it's pretty cool. And so we got 62 gallons of gas, you said?
32 total.
So that's going to make it basically a comfortable 4.5, 5-hour airplane.
Yeah, I flight plan it for sure for 4.5 if I got it full of fuel. If I'm going long range, I'm really paying attention to it very tightly. I have flight planned for 5 hours and 25 minutes before, and it definitely still had more than an hour when I was on the ground.
Head back to the airport to do some landings. What should we expect on the landings?
On the landings are going to be kind of like a few other aircraft that have some carbon fiber in them. They're going to be kind of flat, for laminar flow wings. So again, when we come down and we flatten out for the flare, just keep it above the runway. Just keep that nose off, let it land itself. It'll come down to the mains. But it's not going to be with a pitch high attitude coming into the flare. It's not until you really have slowed down before that nose starts to come up a little bit. It'll still only be a few degrees up when we land, but it'll be very sure-footed. So we're going to enter the pattern at about 85 to 90. We'll slow it down for final to about 70 when we make our final approach.
Yeah, you're describing very similar to a Cirrus landing.
That's correct, very similar to that landing.
And indeed, the P2010 does land like a Cirrus, but if you can fly a 172, you can fly this airplane too. You can find out more about the P2010 on Tecnam's website at tecnam.net, and watch for a full report on the airplane in Aviation Consumer magazine. Thanks for watching.